be facilitating the meeting this morning. So I just want to point out, and am I doing it right now? Awesome. I just want to explain we've got about an hour and a half today. However, after the meeting, the project team will be down in the lobby. So if you'd like to engage them further with more questions, feel free to do that. They'll be here for a while. The first several, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullets on this list, it will be the PowerPoint presentation that the team will be giving. We expect about 45 minutes for that, and then we'll have 45 minutes of Q&A session. So we wanted you to be aware of how we're breaking the meeting down. So I want to start off with what this meeting is. This is a meeting about the Robson Arena here at Colorado College. Excuse me. I've been asked by several people what if this meeting is going to address the bike lanes on Cascade, because I know that's been a big topic lately, and no, this meeting is not about the bike lanes on Cascade. However, the bike lane configuration, the one lane, will be or has been taken into consideration with the traffic analysis that the team has done. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, but keep your questions when we get to it focused on the arena versus specifically the bike lanes. We appreciate that. The presentation today, what you're going to see is really progress. It's progress by the project team that has been working on this so far. What they're here today is to present those preliminary concepts and to listen to your questions, get feedback. We have several meetings scheduled over the next several months, and all your questions today will help them prepare for the next meeting, which is a workshop on January 19th, which we hope you'll all be able to attend that as well. So there's always a balance between folks saying, they don't have any plans at all, and a balance between that and they figured it all out. They've got all the answers. What this is in the middle. What the team has done is developed enough of the concepts to be able to present those to you so you have something to react to. They have not gone so far as to have all the answers. That's what this process over the next 7 months is about. So, like I said, it's a balance, it's an iterative process. They develop some concepts and then get feedback, have a lot of questions, have the workshop meetings, get feedback, incorporate that into the plans, then come back out again to the meetings, get more feedback and reaction, and incorporate that into the plans as it goes along. So very iterative process. We wanted you to know that. But just a couple housekeeping things. You've seen the refreshments, help yourselves. Restrooms, there's restrooms on the main level up above and the level down below as well. And please silence your cell phones while you're here. You should have a packet of 4 handouts. That includes the agenda for today's meeting. The agenda has the preliminary site map on the back as well. You have a set of frequently asked questions, FAQs. And those were developed over the last several weeks where we've been out meeting with people, talking to citizens, residences, the HOAs of the neighborhoods, some of the businesses, various folks involved, the C4C, City for Champions folks. So we put that together to try to address as many of the questions as we possibly could today, because we know you have a lot more questions. We don't want to keep you 14 hours. So read through that during the presentation, and if your question has been addressed, then that's great. It will help us get through more of the people that want to ask questions today. You also have a comment form, and we'd ask you to please fill that out. You can either leave it here today, you can email it, there's an email address at the bottom, or you can snail mail it, there's an address at the bottom to do that as well. And then you have an index card. And what we're asking, again, to try to help get everybody in that wants to ask questions, if you would write your question on the index card during the presentation, put the topic at the top, if it's parking, if it's traffic, if it's the building design, and then we'll organize those, and that will help us also get through all the questions and answers as quickly as we can during the Q&A portion today. I want to mention we are videotaping today. We're doing that for 2 reasons. One is we'll put that videotape on the project website so that those who couldn't be here today, they have an opportunity to go back and see the presentation. And then for the Q&A, that helps us to be able to transcribe all the questions that we heard and the responses, so we can keep adding to that Q&A document. And all of our materials from today will be on the website Monday. The college is closed until then, but it'll be, everything will be posted. So the FAQs, the comment form, the PowerPoint from today, the display boards that you've seen out in the lobby, all of that will be up on Monday. So with that, I want to move on and introduce the project team that we have today. So we have Chris Coulter, and I'll ask you to stand and raise your hand. Chris is with the college. He's the Vice President of Facility Services. We have Rick Green, the college Vice President, Senior Project Manager. Coach Haviland, the head hockey coach, he's not here right now, but he will be toward the end, and he'll be out in the lobby. So you have an opportunity to engage with him. We have a few of the former hockey players, a few alum that are here as well that you can engage with. And then we have Scott Lowenberg. Scott, raise your hand. Scott is with the college. He's the Associate Athletics Director. And with the City of Colorado Springs, we asked them to be here and talk to the City for Champions aspect of this project. So we have Bob Cope with the city, down front. He is the Economic Development Officer. And then the actual consultant team, we have Chris Lieber down here, and Katie Whitford. Katie's up here. They are with the firm of NES, and NES is a local 40-year-old land planning urban design firm, and they've been contracted with the college to lead this process. Public engagement, that's us, Bachman PR. I've got my team here. If you'd raise your hands, we have Allison and Carolyn and Monica that are here helping. And our role is really to help communicate these meetings. So to put the notices out, put the newsletters out, I hope you're all getting that. Please put your email out front. If you did not get the email e-newsletter and you'd like to, we need your email address. So we'll keep you informed throughout the process. We'll help organize these meetings. So generally it's public communication and opportunity for engagement in this process. And then the architectural firm, Adam Davidson's not here today. He will be here for the workshop on the 19th. He is with JLG Architects, and they are a 30-year-old architectural company that really specializes in arenas, all kinds of arenas, collegiate, junior college, community, recreation, so they will be here for that. They're located in North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota, experts in the arena industry. And then we have the traffic engineer, Todd Frisbee, is here. Todd is with FHU. They are a local engineering firm that specializes in transportation planning and traffic engineering. They have an office here in Colorado Springs, one in Denver, Nebraska, and Iowa. And we have our civil engineer is Kyle Campbell. Kyle's with Classic Consulting. They also have a long history here locally in the Pikes Peak region of handling several land development, commercial, residential, and recreation projects. And then we have our parking consultants, again, Todd Frisbee with FHU, and Bill Cerna. And Bill is with WGI Carl Walker. And they're a specialty engineering firm that really focuses on parking planning, operations, and management. And they have 17 offices, 17 offices in 5 states around the country. So that is our team that's here today. And then talk a little bit about the upcoming meetings. You've got this information on your handout, but wanted to go over this as well. We've developed a 7-month process for this arena development, design and development. We have 3 of these meetings planned, 1 today and 2 more. We also have 2 community workshops. The next one is, the first one is January 19th over at the Tutt Library here on the campus. And that workshop, by the way, we've decided to really focus in on some of the key things we hear from all of you. To date, what we've heard is the issues on parking, the concerns parking, and traffic. So we felt the first workshop would really dive into those 2 topics, as well as talking about a residential parking permit program. We could really dive in at that first community meeting with that. Some of the fan experience, the season ticket experience. So I hope you'll all come back for those workshops as well. The second workshop we anticipate will really focus on the building itself, the architecture of it, the landscaping, some of the details of the access points. And then at the end we have 2 public hearings. Those are the official city process, which includes the Colorado Springs Review Board and also the city council meetings. So people have asked, when do I have the opportunity to stand up in front of elected bodies, elected officials, and give my 2 cents, my comment, my opinions? Those are the public hearings where you will have that opportunity to do that, in addition to these meetings and workshops. So quickly, I want to talk about your role. You'll hear from all of us, the project team, but four things we ask of you. And first is please read those FAQs, because there are a lot of facts in there. What we found in meeting with people and following the nextdoor.com and the social media is there's a lot of inaccurate information floating around out there, and that easily happens. Things get passed around. This C4C, there's several venues associated with that. Sometimes a number will be out there as part of the whole C4C package of venues, but we'll see it showing up referring to just one of the venues, to the arena. So read those FAQs, because that's our way to get the facts out there and keep those updated as we go along. Listen to the presentation today if you would. Kindly don't shout out questions during the presentation, because we want to get as much communicated as we can in the amount of time we have, and then we have microphones set up for the actual Q&A. Hold your questions, mark them down so that you remember them, and give the team the courtesy to get through their presentations. Then your other role is ask questions during the Q&A, and then fourth, please participate. The project team needs your feedback. They've, again, preliminary concepts, but they need your thoughts. Does this work? Does that not work? Why does that not work? Why does this work? Why do you like this? Why do you not like that? So please continue to participate and voice your opinions. Next slide, communication. So we have established a web page on the college's website, and that's the URL for that. As I said, everything will be posted up there as we go through the process. We also have an email address established, and so I get those, several of my team gets those, so anything you send in, we are receiving that, and we are incorporating any of the comments you send into that into the overall process. So we know there's a lot of questions. We hope you listen to the presentation, hold your questions until the Q&A, and then I'll come back up and just talk a little bit about how we'll format that Q&A process. So with that, it's a lot of setup, but thank you for listening, and I'd like to now introduce Chris Coulter with the college.
Thank you, Lisa. Some hockey pictures, it's good. Good morning. It's a pleasure to see all of you, and welcome to Colorado College. My name is Chris Coulter, and I'm the Associate Vice President for Facility Services here at Colorado College. A fundamental truth that serves as the foundation for a system of behavior and chain of reasoning is a principle. On the screen behind you, you will see 5 Robson Arena project delivery principles listed using words like connecting, elevating, establishing, and creating. Words describing what the college seeks to deliver, including our aim of making Robson Arena a destination that enhances the fabric of our community. During the upcoming public process, the college will listen, seeking first to understand. Secondly, the college will do its best in upcoming workshops and community meetings to publicly dignify all comments using both compromise and accountability. We very much look forward to your feedback and comments throughout the process, seeing what Robson can become with your help. I now want to invite Mr. Scott Lowenberg, Associate Athletic Director, to the stage to talk about anticipated CC Tiger Hockey program impacts and season ticket holders. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. Thank you all for coming. What a great crowd. We weren't sure what to expect, but I know there's a lot of passion behind this arena and what it means for the community. We're super excited here at Colorado College about this facility. This is Colorado College has never played hockey on campus. So we've been a program since 1938, and now this is an opportunity for us to play on campus, practice on campus, train on campus, and it's super exciting for Colorado College. This is going to be our permanent home. You know, most colleges, the colleges we compete against for recruits and for students, 99.9% of facilities, you know, arenas, basketball, hockey arenas, are on campus. So this is something that we have wanted, and thanks to donors that have donated, the college is not going to finance this facility at all. This facility is totally paid for, and then after it's built, we will have revenues that go towards the operations. So this thing is on the right track. You know, it's not going to be any financing or things that we need to borrow from you all or from the community. But it's very exciting. This arena is going to be state of the art. It's going to be a great facility, and it's good. You might see in your handouts. We're kind of looking in the range of 3,000 to 3,650 seats, which is the right size for Colorado College and the right size for the surrounding community. And you'll hear some of that later in terms of parking and in terms of traffic flow. You know, we're not building a World Arena here. We're not building a Pepsi Center here. We're building something that's right size for the area and the right size for Colorado College. This is something that's super exciting for our students, our faculty and staff, and our hockey program. This is going to be a game changer. For some of our season ticket holders that are here, you know, we get a lot of questions from them about the size of the arena, because the World Arena is more than double the size. All of our season ticket holders will be able to purchase season tickets in this new arena. We are making sure of that. We are building it big enough to where we can take care of everyone. And then for some people that when you look at the traffic flow and parking, you might see on the handout, you always have no-shows. I mean, you wish, actually we wish we didn't have no-shows, but you got to plan on no-shows. And you know, usually for a typical game for us, it's about 2,800 fans that actually come to the games. But this arena is going to be branded Colorado College. When you walk in and you walk around the facility, you know, people that are familiar with Colorado College, this is not going to be some gargantuan skyscraper there. It's going to be a beautiful building. It's going to be branded. It's going to, you know, have the brick. It's going to fit into the Colorado College campus and the community. And it's going to be something that once you go in, you're going to be prideful. When you go to a CCDU game in the future, you're going to say, "Wow, you know, this is amazing." And it's good for people to know from a team standpoint to where, you know, right now our kids, they are student athletes. These are for the people that know about Colorado College, it's a very high academic school. These are not just hockey players that care about hockey and don't care about academics. These are kids that are studying and training for a lot of things other than hockey. So now you're not driving down to the World Arena. You're not practicing down to the World Arena. This is going to be on campus to where everything is there for them. When they want extra skate time or extra shooting time, they will have access to that they don't have now. They won't have to spend the time of driving back and forth. They'll be able to, we're actually going to have a study lounge in the arena for the kids to be able to study, because it's a full-time job when you're a hockey player. You're studying all the time and you're training all the time. And it's going to be state-of-the-art. It's going to have all the sports medicine facilities, locker room facilities, weight room, training facilities, to where we can be competitive. I mean, if you've noticed in recent years, you know, Colorado College, it's the smallest, if you didn't know, it's the smallest Division I hockey program in the entire country. And we're competing against the University of Michigan, University of Minnesota, Boston University, Boston College, University of North Dakota, some big time programs. And for us to excel and win championships, this is something that's needed, and we are very, very thankful for Ed Robson for giving the lead gift, but we had a lot of other $1 million donors step up and to make this a possibility. So at this time, I just wanted to kind of give you a little background. I'd like to hand it over to Bob Cope of the City of Colorado Springs.
Good morning. It is great to see everyone here today. It is pretty much a packed house, and that's what this is all about public engagement. As an economic development officer for the city, I have the privilege of working on a lot of interesting and exciting projects, but none have been more rewarding than City for Champions over the last 5 or 6 years. For whatever reason, it seems to always capture the interest and the imagination of our citizens, and that seems to still be true today. Most of you in the room probably know about City for Champions. It was born out of the Regional Tourism Act at the state. The city was awarded $120.5 million to build unique and extraordinary tourism venues. Those 4 projects were the United States Olympic Museum, which you're now seeing substantially out of the ground in southwest downtown. UCCS, the William J. Hibble Sports Medicine and Performance Center. The United States Air Force Academy Visitor Center, and the last was the Colorado Sports and Events Center. Colorado Sports and Events Center is meant to be an indoor and an outdoor venue for holding sporting and community events of all different types, really focusing though on national governing bodies and Olympic affiliated events. So with the Colorado Sports and Events Center, we're so fortunate to have project development sponsors. For the outdoor stadium, the Colorado Springs Switchbacks and Widener Apartment Homes, and now for Robson Arena, Colorado College. And really what makes City for Champions so far so rewarding have been the great partners. The United States Olympic UCCS, the Air Force Academy, Blue and Silver Development, Colorado Springs Switchbacks and Widener Apartment Homes, and now the city could not be more pleased to be partnering with Colorado College on this terrific project. One thing I want to touch on is that some of the feedback I've gotten is that concerned about what these C4C, City for Champions events would look like in the indoor venue. And I know that Todd will touch on this and others may as well, but the national governing body and the Olympic related events, those are really meant to attract out-of-state visitors to Colorado Springs, but it's primarily participants, coaches, trainers, maybe family members. Those really don't generate a lot of spectators. They're not meant to. Sure, hopefully we'll hope to have maybe a world wrestling championship or something like that that may attract quite a few spectators, but for the most part, you're really going to have participants that are going to be driving those numbers. So you won't see huge numbers of people driving when you're parking at these events. Do want to mention that City for Champions and the Robson Arena are a top priority for the mayor, and something he really wants to see break ground in 2019. I would like to say that successful economic development really has to be a win-win for everybody. And what does that look like? In this case, it's a thriving college, it's a vibrant downtown, and it's successful neighborhoods. So that's what I'm so happy about today is this is the very beginning of making that a reality. Thank you very much. Who's following me? Okay, Chris Lieber with NES.
Thank you, Bob, and a big thanks to all of you for being here today. I know it's a beautiful Saturday and you have lots of choices in Colorado on how you get to spend that day. Thank you for choosing to spend it with us, and we look forward to your feedback and questions as we move forward today. So our role as a consultant team is really to take the vision that you've just heard articulated by the college, by Bob Cope and the city, and to look for ways to implement that and plan that in the best way possible. And we like to think we bring our expertise to the table in doing that as a consultant team, but also a very important piece of that is your input and really across the board from all of the stakeholders. So whether you are a student, whether you're a hockey fan, a season ticket holder, a neighbor, a downtown business owner, someone just interested from the broader community, we're glad you're here, and we look forward to your participation. As Lisa alluded to right at the very start, we're here today to really present what I would call something that's an early work in progress. So we're not here today with finalized plans. We're not necessarily here with all of the answers, but we have some concepts that, quite honestly, we would like your feedback on. It gives us a chance to check in. And the best way for you to kind of participate and continue to watch these plans as they evolve, continue to attend the meetings, come to the workshops. We'll be rolling up our sleeves and getting into a lot more detail, as well as our next public meeting, which will be taking place here. We have chosen, based on preliminary feedback, to focus today's presentation on a handful of topics. One of those being parking and the next traffic. We also want to talk a little bit about building scale and from a very conceptual level. We don't have architectural drawings here to share with you. The architect is working on those, but we'll be bringing those forward. And so understand and work with us, be patient with us as we work to fill in those gaps. Behind me is an overall timeline. This is a projection of how we would like this project to move forward. We are right now in this green zone, which is all about the public process, and again, those refining those designs. What we're looking for is at the end of March to take all of that information and put together a set of development applications. I'll talk a little more about what that means and what that looks like. At that point, that is not the end of opportunity for public comment, but it is the point at which we will be putting forward a firm proposal to the city. They'll be evaluating that, but there'll be opportunities at public hearings for additional public comment. Beyond that, we're looking to break ground really at the end of this year. That's the target, and you can see our grand opening completion date there in 2021. And we understand that that's fluid, but these are certainly our goals. As I mentioned, we have a series of land use applications ahead of us. You see those listed here at the top. First and foremost is a conditional use development plan. That development plan will identify where the building would be located on the site. It would identify all of those various site features. And the reason it's a conditional use development plan, this particular site, all of the block, the city block that will be part of the footprint, is located in the form-based zone. And so the zoning is already in place to enable this project to go forward, but a conditional use development plan is one of those requirements. The second one will be a master plan update, and that will not only address kind of the immediate project, but also need to address kind of the longer-term vision that the college has for the block. And again, we'll get into some specifics about that in a moment. The next application would be it's not very glamorous. It's an alleyway vacation, and what that means is there's an existing alley corridor that is in the center of that block, and the concept that we're exploring would necessitate the vacation or essentially the removal of that alley. Again, another application to the city. And the last one is a final plat, and what that is all about is simply that today there are a number of different properties that make up that block. Final plat, what that does is it assembles all of those properties together. Today, all of the properties are owned by the college, but this will give a chance to consolidate those from a legal description perspective. Again, our target would be to make a submittal in late March. Again, pulling all of the information together between now and then, and continued opportunities for public comment. This project isn't moving forward necessarily in a vacuum. There's been a lot of conversation over a number of years about what could potentially happen in this location. There are a series of plans, and there are more that simply aren't identified here. The first two on the list, the Colorado College Long Range Development Plan and the Colorado College Master Plan, they both specifically talk about a sheet of ice, they talk about an arena. The next two plans that you see talk about this area as potential to be a catalyst from whether it be for community benefit, whether it be for business opportunities, but it's really to support the vibrancy of downtown in the overall corridor. So again, these plans have been on the books for quite some time, and we really see us kind of moving forward with this process. The map that you see here is intended to be a vicinity map. It shows the overall college campus. The area here in yellow is the site, the general location for the proposed arena. Now, many of you are very familiar with the campus. We are right here meeting inside the Cornerstone, so it's just the block to the east. We have Nevada Avenue that runs on the west side of the site. Tejon, of course, terminates into the campus here, but continues on south to Tejon, or to downtown, excuse me. We have Dale Street to the south, and Cash on the north side. And that will be, of course, the focus of our project. When you zoom in and you look in a little more detail, see, this is our block. Once again, Nevada Avenue on the east, Tejon on the west, Dale Street, and Cash. And as we kind of work our way around, I'm sure many of you are familiar with many of the buildings and the uses that are here. We have campus safety and Woodlands. This retail space exists here on the north corner. 3D Arts. Heading on down here, this is the Colorado College Inn. We have Student Activity Center here. These are the residential units. You may be aware that some of that demolition has already taken place. And more college office space, central services, and so on. So kind of a mix of different uses, but once again, all of those are owned by the college at this point. This is what this looks like today, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with the fact that the original uses for many of these buildings, that has changed over time, whether it be, in this case, what was once the dry cleaners is now used by the college. See in some of the other photos, this was the motel that is now housing some college students. Woodlands, very popular here, and you can make your way around in a previous gas station, but a variety of different uses and all in different conditions. I had mentioned two master plans that we wanted to get into more detail on. This, the official title, is the Colorado College Long Range Development Plan. This was actually developed in 2008, and it is the plan that the city, from a planning perspective, recognizes as the official master plan document for Colorado College. So when we talk about the need to amend the master plan, this is the document that will be amended as we move forward. A couple of key pieces. Obviously, it addresses the overall campus. Our focus today is this area in yellow. And again, when you zoom in to that, a couple of things stand out. First and foremost, back in 2008, the notion of relocating the ICE Center was discussed at that point. Another important piece, this idea of mixed use retail, commercial type space along that Tejon corridor was seen as an important value. The language, if you read that plan and kind of read the details, also talks about parking, whether it be a parking structure or whether it be dispersed parking. It provides a variety of different ways to address parking, and uses language such as explore the opportunity to look at the use of private lots. It talks about opportunities for parking in combination with downtown. So that's the context under which we're beginning to look at this project from the long-range plan perspective. Next, many of you may have participated in this. This is the Colorado College's master plan. And I like to think about that to draw some differentiation from the previous plan. This is the college's vision for what the college campus could look like as we move forward. Several things here worthwhile pointing out. Once again, on Tejon, this concept of mixed use and retail space. That is largely driven, if you dig into the text of the plan, with this idea of continuing this commercial corridor, kind of walkable commercial corridor along Tejon. We continue to see that as having some merit and making a lot of sense. As we work around here, this notion of a plaza, which would connect into kind of the core of the campus, but maybe provide some queuing, but a gathering space. The master plan calls for a natatorium up in this location. And while that is not part of our specific project today, the college is interested in seeing that opportunity continue into the future. So when we're talking about updating a master plan, natatorium would continue to be part of that. But again, that's very much a long-range plan and not what we're focused on today. And then, of course, Ice Center here. In this particular case, located along the Nevada and Dale corner. And in the middle, also parking. The plan talks about both parking structure as well as surface parking. This is where we are from a site plan perspective, and I wanted to put the master plan and this plan back to back because we can talk about some of the things we see as valuable in terms of carrying forward, moving forward. One of the first things, we'll start here and work our way around. This again, this notion of a plaza to provide a connection, we think is a strong idea and fits well with the college. As we move in this direction, this is the area that on that previous plan we talked about as a potential for a natatorium. That is still an option in the long range, but short term, the foreseeable future, 3D Arts would continue to exist there and continue to function. Behind 3D Arts and in this area, looking to maximize parking opportunities. One of the changes that you'll see in the previous plan, Robson Arena, the proposed future ice arena, was located this way on Nevada Avenue. In working with the architect and from a planning perspective, we believe this orientation actually has some pretty big benefits. One of those is that into and on the end of the arena, there are opportunities for continued retail space. So if that's something like a Wooglan's or continuing to provide that kind of opportunity, we felt that made sense and it enables the arena and that retail space to kind of fit together and dovetail nicely. The other big piece of this is if you are on Nevada Avenue, you'll know that there's this common kind of setback and aesthetic and feel as you're going along Nevada Avenue, particularly even the campus as you head north. You can see here how the buildings are set back. We felt that there was a value in continuing that kind of visual experience along Nevada. This gives us the ability to do that. Other kind of details around the outside, I encourage you to check out the boards out in the lobby space. They have this exact same drawing, but also looking at opportunities to increase parking, maybe add a diagonal parking on Dale to, again, increase that overall capacity. We've had a lot of questions about just kind of general size and scope of the arena. Generally, how big is it? What would it? And while we don't have answers on what it would look like, we can give you some parameters. First of all, as Scott mentioned earlier, we are working in a range right now. We think the sweet spot is probably about 3,300 seats, but we're still in a range here of 3,000 to 3,600. And those would be, again, fixed seats. We also, in comparison, the Broadmoor World Arena, depending on their setup, has about room for about 8,000. So you can see we are about well less than half of that in terms of that capacity. And there's kind of from another perspective, Pikes Peak Center, obviously you can't play hockey in there. There's no ice, but from a seating perspective, there's just shy of 2,000 seats. Again, just to give kind of a range. We also said, okay, let's take a little bit look at the building footprint. And while this is still somewhat in flux as the architect is working on that, we anticipate that's going to be the footprint. Now, this is not overall square footage, but the building footprint itself, about 62,000 square feet. And if you compare that to the World Arena, that equates to about 2/3 the size from a building footprint perspective. Next, some questions about building height. The architect is projecting the building height to be right around 54 feet. And again, while that may change as they're finalizing their plans, we said, okay, what do we have next door to that? And what is that context and how might it fit with the neighborhood and other existing buildings on campus? So here we are in Cornerstone. The top of Cornerstone is 52 feet in height, so we're very close to that. You can compare that to both Armstrong and Spencer. And if you take the building and you don't include whether it be mechanical rooms on top or the cupolas on top of Spencer, you can see we're pretty comparable in there. And so part of the important piece is that this building, as it develops, continues to fit in with the neighborhood. So at this point, I'm going to wrap up conversation about kind of site and building mass, and turn it over to Todd Frisbee, who will be chatting a little bit about parking and traffic.
Good morning. I am Todd Frisbee with Belfort Home Building. As Chris said, I'll be talking primarily about parking and traffic today. The heavy focus on parking and sort of a high-level look at traffic at this point. So when it comes to parking and evaluating parking, there's two things you got to figure out. One, you got to figure out your supply, and number two, you got to figure out your demand. And so in doing that, we collected data on parking availability in those lots that you see listed up here, CC lots on the street, city garages, and then there's a series of parameters that go into calculating a parking demand for this arena for a sold out event. And so we looked at some data that's available on load share, number of people per car, and then attendance at this for a sold out hockey game. And so when it comes to meeting that supply, there's sort of two fundamental, I would say, approaches that you could take. And one is you can focus that parking around the arena, or you can look at opportunities for disperse that parking out in and around in the vicinity of the arena. So just wanted to throw out a couple advantages to those different approaches. And when you think about the World Arena, all the parking is concentrated right there. It's easier to manage. You know where to go. The parking is intuitive when you are heading to the stadium. When you look at, but on the flip side, when you look at sort of spreading that parking out, you get the opportunity to use those lots that sit dormant for most of the weekend. There's an opportunity to use that existing infrastructure. Also, when you spread that parking out, you can spread out the traffic as well. And so when I talk about traffic, you'll see the effect of spreading that parking out and the impact it has on intersection operations. And then, and plus, as Bob has talked about, there is this component of integrating this arena with the community, and so there's an opportunity to engage with sort of the downtown and this arena that you don't necessarily get with the current World Arena. So those are sort of two fundamental approaches. Today we'll spend a little bit of time looking at this dispersed parking approach and sort of how we can meet this demand that we're going to need for parking. So this slide gets that demand. And as we have mentioned, there's a range right now. We're still fluctuating in that range, and as Chris said, it looks like we might be tending in on this number. So we've used that number for the purposes of analysis today. We're assuming that students will want to attend these games and that they will walk to these games as well. This is the number of operation staff. So this is the number of staff just needed to run an event at Robson. That's concession people, maintenance, ice workers, refs, media, all of those different components that go into that. So when you kind of put all that together, and some demand parameters here as well, the number to focus on is right here. 1,055. The need to park 1,055 cars for a sold-out hockey event, and so that's what I'm going to walk through for the next few slides. I'm going to walk about how this demand can be met through various sources of parking. So first is on-site, and right, and there are approximately 100 spaces in this lot that is outlined here. Another 73 spaces, diagonal spaces along Dale and Tejon. So that gives us, you know, we're filling up, there's this bucket, and we're filling this bucket up with these spaces. So we're at, that gets us to 100, that's 173 spaces just right at the site. And then the next component is campus lots. And we recognize that during many of these hockey games, there is still a need for student housing, students who live on campus to use the parking lot. So we tried to be as conservative as we could in this analysis. So you'll notice that, you know, these lots over here that serve residential areas in the west and in the east, we're assuming that those are not even available for sold-out hockey events. And so the lots that are available, you know, this lot to the north, these lots along here, and that lot as well. These lots are used primarily by staff and faculty and are primarily empty during those times that hockey games would occur. Although there are some students that do park in this lot, and so we've assumed about 80% of that lot would be available for games. So that gets us another 381 spaces. So we're getting closer and filling up our buckets here. All right, the next source is that there are several lots around to the south that the college is working and has a preliminary agreement, I could say, that they would be willing to open up their lots for use during a hockey event, a hockey game. And all of these are primarily to the south of the arena. And so that gets us to 295 spaces. So we're getting a little bit closer. All right, next source is on-street parking. There are several spaces along south of the campus. And we recognize there's more. I mean, there's parking on Mesa as well. But want to just look just within the 3 blocks to the south of the campus. During those Friday nights and Saturday nights, there are about 287 spaces available in these lots. That's not every space on those streets. That's about half of those spaces. So we're taking into account that those spaces are, that others are using those spaces as well. So that gets us to 1,036. It gets us to a surplus of parking to meet that demand. So let's talk about walking distance, just real quick. So the industry standard in a cold weather climate for an arena and sort of the maximum tolerance for someone to walk is 10 minutes. And that's about a half a mile or so. And so you can see, you know, this is our 5-minute window. 10-minute window is way out here. All of these surface lots that we have been talking about are within that 10-minute window. About half of these spaces are within that 5-minute window as well. So if you just do a quick comparison, it's like what are people doing today at the World Arena? How far are they walking when they park? So if you sort of take the edge of the parking lot of the paid parking lot at the World Arena, and then, as you know, there are probably people who park in Tinseltown, they park at the restaurants around there to get free parking. They're willing to walk up to 1,200 feet, which is about a 5-minute walk time. So the walk distance from these lots is not much different than what is currently experiencing at the World Arena. All right, so another piece of this puzzle that we're trying to solve here and meet this demand is that there's an opportunity to open up and to park folks at the parking garages downtown. So there's 3 main parking garages downtown. These parking garages are about half full on Friday and Saturday night, and that equates to about 1,300 spaces or so. And so with the shuttle system, you know, the shuttle system is limited by the number of shuttles you run, the capacity of the shuttle. So if you take the capacity of the shuttle system, we think that we can get another 100. There's another 170 spaces that patrons could use and not overload a shuttle system. Now, the shuttle system is highly flexible, and you can adjust. You can have buses frequency, and you can make that number fluctuate up and down. But there's, again, we think that there's an opportunity to park folks in these downtown garages. So again, our running total, we think we can meet that demand through these various sources of parking. So, a couple other things I wanted just to mention as well when it comes to parking. And this has just been strictly just a look at supply and demand. Those are the two things those are the two fundamental pieces when it comes to parking. But there are other tools and incentives and ways you can manage this parking to help the ingress and the egress, to reduce demand, and to help people get in and out of these lots. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but there's a whole list of ways that you can do this. And a couple of things that we've talked about is that I guess currently season ticket holders can buy, can pay extra and park a little bit closer to the arena. So we continue to do that program, give season ticket holders the opportunity to purchase spaces in these reserved lots. So that'll help people. That'll help season ticket holders, who will be your bulk of your attendees, so they know where to pitch. So they're not circulating around through the area. Uber and Lyft. Many colleges and professional sporting organizations have agreements with, particularly Lyft, from what I understand, where they subsidize trips within a certain zone to encourage people to take the Lyft to a game. So that helps to reduce your parking demand. It doesn't help with your traffic, but it does help reduce your need for parking. That would be an opportunity for a college student to contract with Lyft. I think some other tools, we've heard that there are some local businesses who would say, hey, we're really excited about this. We'll run our own shuttle to this area. And so that's another way to sort of look at parking demand. And then there's opportunity. I think there is part of our public process is to continue to look at other ways to provide, to bolster supply as well. So that's part of the equation as well. And then I think another sort of aspect too is to address concerns of parking in the neighborhood by attendees is this idea of implementing a residential parking program. And so we've had some preliminary discussions with the city, and there is a willingness to work with, if this is an interest among the neighborhood, among the adjacent neighborhoods, in instituting some sort of residential parking program. And it looks different ways. There's the around UCCS. It is a full-time restriction. But if you look at Mile High and you look at the parking restrictions in the neighborhoods around Mile High, they're restricted to Saturdays and Sundays and evenings. So there's I think there's various ways to sort of to institute this type of program, and this is something we want to get into in a workshop. Is this an idea that people are interested in as well? Okay, so that is parking for hockey events. I've got more to come, and so more on parking. So the other aspect of parking is this idea of C4C events occurring at Robson Arena. Now, when we look at parking and we look at these events, there are certain things that limit the frequency and the size of these events. The one piece, the major piece that gets to that is the C4C, just the C4C business plan itself. And so, and as Bob talked about earlier, that these events, per that agreement, that green light is always pushed the wrong one. That agreement here, because events would occur during academic breaks, so block breaks, winter breaks, and summer breaks. It is projected in a year, projected that there would be up to 32 non-hockey events, and only 5 of those events would be more than 2,000 spectators. Now, if you go into the business plan and you take all the potential, NGBs and organizations that are listed there, and you kind of average the number of attendance and the average the number of participants. You're looking at, on average, one of these events has 1,500 or so people at these events. So that's one piece that sort of limits the parking, sort of limits the frequency and size of these events. The other piece is parking availability. So when you look at the C4C events, those lots that are privately owned, the shuttle system lot, those lots are not necessarily going to be available for C4C events. So we're back to looking at CC lots, the capacity of those lots, and the available street parking to the south. So when you kind of put all of that together, you can kind of chart chart size of the event against the day of the week as well. And so green represents, yes, you've got, for that size event, you've got enough parking on those particular days to host that type of event. The gray is no, and the yellow is maybe. You're right on that. You're right on that border. And so when you look at this, this red line is that average that I talked about earlier. And you can see that the average event, there would be sufficient parking to accommodate that event during these breaks as well. Give me a sec, I'm going to get the water. Thank you. Okay, all right, that's parking. All right, next topic. You ready? Traffic. Okay, traffic. So, we want to probably get more detail into traffic at the workshop. But wanted to give at least a preliminary analysis from a traffic perspective, and it's focused on a sold-out hockey event, and this effort is focused currently on, what you'll see today, is focused on that arrival to the event. So the first thing we got to figure out in traffic is where people are coming from. So I asked the college to provide zip code locations for season ticket holders. So that first set of bullets sort of breaks down sort of by region around the arena, sort of where season ticket holders, where those tickets reside by zip code. You can see that about 9% of those are actually in this 8093 zip code. And then you sort of have 37, you have roughly 31% to the south, sort of 59% to the north-ish, west, and east of the region. So in general, the season tickets are spread out throughout the community. So then we take those numbers, and we make some estimates about where these trips would come from, and kind of what corridors are they going to use. And so that's what this sort of breaks it down. As you look at the numbers and look at where season ticket holders, this is where folks are coming. We're estimating where folks how they will access the site. So that puts coming from the north, coming from the west, it puts some pressure on the Uinta corridor. So that's one piece that is part of this traffic analysis. So the other piece is, okay, so we figure out where this traffic is coming from, and I wanted to go back to this idea of dispersed parking versus concentrated parking. And the idea, when you sort of spread that parking out and you give instead of concentrated into one location, you can reduce some of the parking demand, or you can reduce the demand or the additional traffic at these intersections. And right now, we're just focused on just those intersections on the four corners of the campus. Uinta Cascade, Cache, Nevada, and Uinta. So just those four main intersections. So I just want to point out, when you sort of distribute that parking, you can lessen the amount of traffic that would be potentially at these intersections. And then that translates into delay. Intersection operation. That's what I just touched briefly on that as well. So game times are typically in the evening, Friday and Saturday night. And so our base level from where we're starting is much lower than your peak hours. So some of the numbers, compared to peak hour, your traffic numbers on these streets are 30 to 40% less. And so our base point, our base delay at intersections is at a lower level. Now, as you would expect, as you add trips to the for an event, you're going to get a change in, you're going to have an increased delay at the intersection. And we have to remember too that when you look at this, that this is a concentrated 30-minute window where people are arriving for this game. And so don't get so hung up so much on the numbers themselves. What I look for when I do this kind of analysis is I look for a threshold. And when the traffic delay at an intersection exceeds 55 seconds per vehicle, then it begins to say that intersection is over capacity, that it can't handle the traffic that is coming into that intersection. So as you can see in the distributed parking scenario, in our preliminary analysis here, we're not necessarily overloading those intersections. Now, there will be some delay, of course, some increased delay in getting in, but when I see numbers like this, I'm saying it is within an acceptable range of operations. So, and when you concentrate that parking near in sort of one area, you begin to see some of the intersections along the Uinta and Cascade begin to fall over that 55-second threshold and begin to say, hey, these intersections are over capacity and will experience more than an acceptable level of delay. So that is traffic and parking. We're just about to do the Q&A, but I think Lisa's going to come up and give a few more points, right? Okay.
I don't know if this is microphone. Okay. All right. Can you hear me okay? All right. Great. Thank you. I want to thank these guys. Todd is an engineer, and but he does a pretty darn good job of presenting. It's not no slight to engineers, but I know how hard he worked on this. He had a lot of homework, and there's for every one of these numbers, there's this analysis pretty deep behind it. And I think he did a great job of trying to condense it in a good short amount of time, which you will all get to see the numbers behind and how he arrived at these if you come to the workshop where you really dig into that. So thank you, Todd. That was a lot to cover. We've gone a little bit over in our presentation, so I want to ask, we'd like to still give 45 minutes for the Q&A. Are you okay staying a little bit longer? If you're not, you have to leave. We understand that, but we're going to get as many questions in as we can, but we will go longer to assure at least 45 minutes of the Q&A. So at this point, I want to ask you if you filled out a index card and you have a question, can you please scoot those, put them into the center aisles here, and the folks up at the back are going to come down and collect those cards so that we can help organize them. Hopefully we'll get everybody that wants to come to the microphone, but if not, we'll have your questions captured again so we can continue to update those FAQs. I don't have a flip chart here where I'll be writing down your questions, and that's because we've got folks up there. Carolyn is taking all the questions into the computer. We're also videotaping so we can go back. We just want to make sure that we don't miss anything. So that's how we're going to handle that. Because we have so many attendees, I just want to have a couple of ground rules. Everybody's been so great, and I appreciate it. But we want to continue with mutual respect throughout this for each other and also for the project team. So once again, don't shout out from your seats. We're going to ask you to go to the microphone, stand along the back, and then put down the microphone to ask your question. And we'll have a facilitator there at each microphone. If you're going too long and monopolizing, they're going to ask you to move it along because we want to get everybody in and have a chance that wants to ask a question. You may disagree with what you're hearing, you may have different opinions, and that is fine. Just don't be disagreeable in your tone or your language. We appreciate that. And lastly, we want to hear, in addition to questions, if there's something you saw that you really liked or didn't like, we want to hear those comments as well. So please let us know those when you go up to the microphone. So can I ask a raise of hands? Can everybody agree to those basic rules and ground rules? Thank you. I appreciate that very much. All right. Please go on to the microphones. Anyone who has a question? We've got our project team all here. The city's still here for any C4C. So they will they'll come up and answer the questions as we go. And we'll go back and forth. One microphone and then to the other. So Tim, are you first?
I guess I'm first.
You're first.
Is this on? Okay. Did the traffic analysis take into account all the college students crossing all the streets? Because the light on the bed is a really long light when you get caught there.
In our analysis that we do include pedestrian, we count pedestrian traffic when we do the analysis. And so we do include those pedestrians in the analysis. Okay.
This question is for, I believe, Bob Cope for the C4C. And so I did attend the C4C meeting in Denver, and I have read the business plan. And the business plan says 118,500 net new out-of-state visitors. And your business plan has 165 arena events, 84 other CC venues, and 40 both arena and stadium. So how do those numbers coincide with your 32 non-hockey events? I mean, how do these numbers coincide? And are you going to adjust the business plan accordingly that you're presenting to the RTA?
Okay, I'll try to answer those questions. So, yes, the 118,000 net new out-of-state visitors is for the Colorado Sports and Events Center concept. So that is both the indoor venue and the outdoor venue. The outdoor venue has a larger seating capacity, and it's expected to generate the majority of the net new out-of-state visitors. And the balance of those are projected to come from those 32 additional non-hockey events.
So the business plan, I'll state it again, is 165 events for the Robson Arena, 40 for both the arena and stadium, and 84 other CC venues. So could you tell me how that equals 32 non-hockey events? And are you modifying the business plan to the RTA?
No, we're not modifying that. I'd have to look at the exact section that you're looking at. Part of what was done is there was a study of the universe of all potential events that you could have from all the NGBs and all the different opportunities to have events in the venues. But the business plan and the pro formas were based on the hockey and the 32 non-hockey events at Robson.
So you're not changing the business plan?
No, those others are potential. So there's room for it to grow. But the projected first year and then 5-year pro forma was based on the 32.
So there's nothing going to be written in stone that says that you're not going to exceed 32 non-hockey events? It's just,
No, this
it's
is a
just
business
something on a slide, but it's not something that's going to be written down in stone.
I mean, it is a business plan, and a business plan is something that you execute on. Every business that generates a business plan strives to meet the thresholds. They may come under, they may go over, but it is a plan. It would have to be achieved through the marketing and booking efforts.
Okay, over this one.
Hi, as a CC hockey season ticket holder, I think this is going to be great. At the same time, I just think as a reference, it would be helpful to see what is the current traffic demand amongst the land uses that are there. Is that something you guys have calculated or are going to include in the next workshop so you can get kind of a net increase?
You know what, I'll answer something real quick before Todd talks about it, and we're going to talk about traffic, but something good for people to know about Colorado college hockey. So out of the 365 days a year, we're going to host typically 17 to 18 games, which can be Friday and Saturday nights. That's it for the whole year. The maximum ever, and you can, for the person, if you wanted to write this, I'd put it in writing, the maximum ever is going to be 23 games a season. And that's like if we played Alaska Anchorage, there's rules about that in the NCAA, and that's if we hosted the first round of the NCAC tournament, which obviously we want to do.
That's a good comment about sort of comparing to what the current traffic is. We don't have data on that, but that's something we can consider gathering. We do have comparison data on sort of vehicles parked and attendance at those for this season. So yeah, at the workshop, we can definitely probably present some information on existing World Arena things.
It wasn't the World Arena, but the existing land uses on the site where the arena's gonna be, so that we get that comparison.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
My name is Pam. I've been a neighbor of Colorado College for 45 years. I respect and admire the idea that Colorado College wants to be part of the City of Champions and that you want to expand your campus to be a part of that. However, World Arena, the current home of CC Hockey, provided acres of parking that is adequate for their facility. Penrose Hospital, Memorial Hospital, the Broadmoor Hotel, the Pikes Peak Center, UCCS have all expanded, but they have bought property, they've built parking garages, they've built parking lots to accommodate the capacity of their venue. Closer to home, First Presbyterian Church, First Methodist Church, all private parking lots, as well as the Money Museum right on CC campus, built parking lots and parking structures to accommodate their venues. Colorado College is not doing that. They do have private parking lots, but many of those are totally absorbed by student parking. It seems by the boards out in the hallway and the presentations today, which were very nice, that Colorado College is assuming that they can absorb themselves into these private lots. And true, some of them may be empty on peak hockey games. However, what if one of these private lots has an evening adventure of their own? Where are they going to park? Then that will take out some of CC's parking as well. That would require monitoring of parking lots, which puts the burden on the private parking lot owner. Also, absorbing the city parking lots puts somewhat of a burden on parking and restriction in those city lots. I hope that CC will step up to the plate and consider some kind of a parking structure, move the arena to a different part of CC, like down the hill where you could build a parking structure and you could look right out over it, or some other idea. I also hope that the city, in their desire to be a burgeoning City of Champions, will hold Colorado College to providing the needed parking lots for their venues. Go Tigers.
I guess I heard one question in there, and maybe one of our gentlemen can answer that, is the coordination when there's an event going on, say in the downtown area, Parade of Lights, for example, so maybe somebody could address that coordination.
That's what they're...
And private, and the private.
Certainly the points that the previous question holder gave, that those are absolutely points that we are in consideration right now. Those private lots and the consideration and the arrangements that we're making with those private lot owners, we have to consider what happens when other people want to park there. There are existing lots on campus, some of which certainly do see additional parkers there in the evenings, whether they be residential related, student related, or things like that. There are plans to accommodate those. At this time, we're not able to announce all that because the project, in terms of overall budget and funding and how we're going to do all this, that is a consideration that we are including. But all of the items that were just mentioned are certainly a part of the analysis that we are doing, and in the workshop going forward, I think we will have more information.
Sir.
Thank you. My name is John. I'm a season ticket holder. I have a request and a question. My request is that to get to the final plat, there are various government agencies that have to approve the documents. Would you please make sure you let us know the dates that those meetings will be held, where they'll be taking that action, so that those of us that are supporting this move can show up to be there for you. My question concerns food and beverage vendors, and it goes from both sides, from the current food and beverage vendors at the arena. How is the new arena going to handle that type of activity? There's a lot of jobs over there right now, and is the arena going to rely on local businesses to provide the space for those vendors to provide those services? Thank you.
I heard two questions there, and I'll field the first, and I think can you hear me? Okay, and Scott can handle the second half. The first one had to do with notification as applications are moving forward through the city. So the best way to kind of think about this is right now, between now and March, before we make that submittal, this is the college's process and the invitation for you to be part of that. Once we make that submittal, that process somewhat changes, and the city then steps into a significant portion of that role. And so there are obligations on the college to notify, certainly adjacent neighbors. If you have signed up, given us your email address, we will, in addition to some of those requirements, we'll send information out and make sure that you all are aware of those public hearing opportunities, for instance, when it heads to city council. So we'll make that commitment that we won't need to do that. So,
And
Scott?
hopefully you've all, this is kind of a copy of the newsletter that we've been sending out. So sir, we'll put those dates in here once we know what those exact dates are. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question, and thank you for being a season ticket holder. Yeah, I mean, everything that we're doing is taking into account that we don't want to be less than the World Arena, other than in capacity size. So on the concourse, yes, we are planning on a wide concourse. We are already talking to vendors about, beverages and food options. I mean, this is Colorado College. Anybody that's involved with Colorado College, this is going to be top notch. This is going to be all about the fan experience, all about our students, and all about our campus. So we're really excited. And we're even getting down to the nuts and bolts of seat sizes. We want to make sure the seats are not smaller than they are at the World Arena. They're going to be chairback seats. They're going to be leather. They're going to be comfortable. So we worry about those kinds of things. But thank you for your question.
Cup holders.
Definitely cup holders. That is part of it too. Yes, yes.
Hi, Jane Morgan, Old North End. The addendum to the business plan mentions a rigorous parking study was conducted. When will that be released to the public?
Again, too many microphones. So as part of our submittal to the city, we will be, one component of that will be the parking study. Todd and I have chatted, we would like to be able to provide that before that submittal is made. So you'll have an opportunity to see it and review it as part of the submittal, but we'd like to get it into folks' hands ahead of time as well. A couple of things to point out. At this point, we still have a range between 3,000 and 3,600. There's a lot of things that need to be sharpened up, and then Todd will be in a better position, and Bill Cerna as well, from a parking perspective, to kind of sharpen those numbers up and be able to provide that. So, but that's a requirement that the city is placing on the college, and that we will be certainly providing.
So when you release the parking study, you will also release the traffic study?
Yes, there will be, both of those are requirements of the city, and we intend to make that available. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dick Appleese. I'm an Old North End resident, and here in a couple of weeks will be 20 years. And that entire time, in that 20 years, I've dealt with parking issues from the students in the college. So I got two quick questions for you. Currently, as it stands, college staff and their students park in the neighborhood, and the college doesn't seem really to have very good control on that, and I understand why. So how are you guys going to control the 3,600 people that come visit on a hockey game or some other event? Second, and lastly, this is a very historic neighborhood. So is the Old North End. Back in the day, if you were anybody of General Palmer, you lived on Cascade, you lived on Tejon, you were right here in this corner section. How's the college going to help protect the historic value of the neighborhood? especially with what just happened in the 800 block of Weber, with the old houses being torn down and a parking lot put in. That's not good historic preservation. Thank you.
I think the first part, and I hope I get the questions right. The first one had to do with a question about some of the ongoing challenges with parking, independent of this particular project. One of the concepts that Todd alluded to is this idea of a residential parking permit program. We would like feedback from all of you to see if that is something that makes sense. And it's, yes, being brought forward in the context of the arena and various events that could take place, but it could also potentially be a tool that expands beyond just those events. And in the case of UCCS, and I know a lot of concerns about student parking in the neighborhood, in that particular case, the city and UCCS met with the neighborhood and had a conversation about, how do we best try and address that. In that particular case, I'm not saying that's necessarily the right fit here. They implemented that plan, and it's 365 days out of the year. It can be a useful tool. There are pros and cons to all of that, but I think the important piece would be, is that something that's valuable to the neighborhood? And you weigh all of that. And I know the college has expressed certainly a commitment to have those conversations. We've chatted with the city. They are open to having those conversations, but it really needs to be driven, I think, from the neighborhood in terms of what's the right fit. Because you don't want to, it could be an incremental rollout as well. You don't want to overdo it up front, and unless, again, that's the right fit. So, a residential parking permit, let me give you kind of a broad perspective, at least in how it works over at UCCS. So in that particular case, they had students parking, the neighborhood had students parking in the neighborhood in front of the homes every single day, and it became a real issue because then residents didn't have a place to park, particularly if you have guests or a large family and a number of cars. So residents are given essentially tags, permits, that they put in their cars. And so what that means is that you're a resident, you have a right then to park in front of your residence. The city and UCCS then go through an enforcement effort in that they go and they patrol and they look in the neighborhood for those vehicles that do not have those tags, and then those cars can be ticketed. Residents are also given extra passes if you have that, you want to host a party at your house and you have some additional folks you want to have come over, all of that. But again, so that is one potential tool. That's generally how the UCCS effort works. But it's a way to really minimize and keep the street parking specifically for residents and not for students. That's one model, but there are others out there too. And I hope I did that justice. I'm looking to some of the folks from the city that are here. So.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm Bob. I'm a football alumni of Colorado College, and I've got an observation and a request and then a question. But the first request is when I hear the seats are in discussion for size and all that, please don't shortchange legroom. Some of us don't bend our knees the way they used to. I donated my body to Colorado College. But my question is, may we be safe in the assumption that with the Robson Arena and all of the stuff going on, that this is a firm commitment of Colorado College to maintain and sustain this Division I college hockey program?
Thanks for your comment. I mean, for sure. I know Rick and Chris and we're actually visiting facilities with our architects and everything, and we're worried about the customers and the leg room and everything, so we're on track there. And you're right, you know what? Colorado College, I mean, probably the best way to answer this is you do not, I mean, I can tell there's obviously a worry about you, and obviously being a football alum, I can see why. But there is, Colorado College hockey is here to stay, and this arena is just makes it even more secure. I mean, Colorado College has a commitment to our athletic program and to the college as a whole, and this hockey program. I mean, the reason we're doing this is this actually gives our program now a chance to win championships. I mean, you will, as fans and people involved with Colorado College, you're going to be able to hold us accountable, because now this is going to be a program that should beat the Michigans and the Boston colleges and the North Dakotas out there. This is a huge commitment from the college, and we're very excited about it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Wendy Mike, and I'm a longtime resident of the Patty Jewett neighborhood. I also am an artist with a downtown studio, and I'm on the board of directors of All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church, which sits on the corner of Dale and Tejon, so cat-a-corner from the proposed arena. And I have a couple of observations and concerns. One, I've heard a lot about how great this is for Colorado College, and it's all about the hockey, and it's all about what you want to create, and that's great. But I haven't really heard very much about its disadvantages to the neighborhood, or how it will accommodate an existing dynamic neighborhood that is both residential, business, and also has these historic downtown churches. All Souls has been there since 1892. And right now the parking lot in the back of All Souls is actually owned by Colorado College, so we get to use it on Sunday mornings, but other than that, it's pretty much off limits in terms of anything count-onable. So my concern is, people do live and work in this area and have been for many, many years, and I haven't heard how that's going to be accommodated. If they want to have, someone wants to have a party on a Friday night, what are they going to do? You can ticket cars, but that doesn't move them out of the way on that Friday night. And then also, in terms of the church, we have a certain amount of revenue that we get from renting our facility. It's a big part of our budget. And I don't see how we're supposed to coordinate all of those events that we do with Colorado College on their hockey nights. So I have a couple of questions. One, are you going to coordinate with, say, an All Souls and give us something that we can count on that can accommodate our existing and sort of long-term historical presence in the neighborhood? Is there any kind of plan to coordinate with existing businesses and residences so that it's not all about CC, but it's also all about a long-time existing neighborhood, that this feels a little bit like it's getting kind of shoved down our throats?
So I think a couple of pieces to that, and I may ask Chris kind of address that. But I know that the college has already reached out to a number of adjacent property owners or organizations, and I think they would love to have...
It has not reached out to All Souls, just so you know.
I'm sorry?
It has not reached out to All Souls.
Okay, but I'm sure that they would be absolutely willing to do that and have that conversation so they can understand some of the specific needs that you have. When it comes to, you asked me the question about how does it fit into the neighborhood. I know one of the goals...
accommodate existing traditions, neighborhoods, people, and the other point I want to make is I've heard, well, people can park close if they pay more money, and a lot of times the solution is if you throw more money at it, you get what you want. But what about the people that are not in a position to do that?
Certainly a parking management plan, it has to be part of the solution. I think independent of what the parking looks like and how that happens, we've had those conversations with the college. I know that they're committed to doing that and putting that in place. And that means working with adjacent neighbors. It means being cognizant of big events like Parade of Lights. And all of those other things, that all would have to fit and work together. The other piece is, I know that the vibrancy of the neighborhood matters, not only to many of the neighbors that I talk to, but it matters to the college. And there are, I think, fair questions about the long-term use. If nothing happened, let's say, and the buildings and the uses that are there today, you have a dry cleaners that doesn't really function that way. I don't know how that fits and how that adds vibrancy to the neighborhood today. You've got what was the gas station on the other corner. So I guess I would, as a planner, I would say that there are opportunities to improve upon that. And adding that retail space along Tejon is one way of doing that, that I think could, benefit the neighborhood overall. Is it change? Absolutely. And it's going to take, I think, again, working, particularly if you're right on the corner, catty corner, understanding what your needs are and those issues. So,
will there be a person sort of designated or some kind of committee that is designated so that people who have these interests can have direct access to communicating with someone on this?
And that's where I step in. Two of the things that I talked about in my presentation were compromise and accountability.
We can't hear you.
Two of the things I talked about in my presentation were compromise and accountability. What you are talking about is absolutely a part of what the college wants to be a part of. I also talked about the fabric of the community and trying to enhance the fabric of the community. We are not going to improve or enhance the fabric of the community by going about this alone. And we want to develop a project and an idea, and how it ultimately is realized is only going to be better if we have conversations with other folks. So I guess what I'm telling you is Chris Coulter will be the person that I will be engaging you about how to do that. Have a conversation, let's figure it out, and let's figure out how compromise sort of creates progress.
And if I could add on.
Say again?
You'll be in touch?
Yes, I'll be in touch.
Yeah, so if I could add on to that, if you would at the sign-in table, put down All Souls. We did reach out to be sure you were on our database to get the newsletters, but now we're moving into that more detailed public process. We'd like to meet with the businesses around the area and the churches, so leave me your specific name and phone number so I know who to call.
And I would encourage you to come to the workshop because more detail the better.
I'm downtown.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
First, I want to say thank you for today's discussion, and I do actually appreciate how you're striving to have an iterative process here and working with those of us that are in the community. My name is Diane, and I have been a property owner in this area since the early 90s, and so I am, along with many of my neighbors, significantly impacted by this. I find it quite funny that previously I worked with Ryan, on much smaller businesses that have wanted on-street parking in my space of just 5 spots. And now here we are with this huge looming, arena, which I'm very, it sounds like a great opportunity for the college, but the fact that it has, 1,000, maybe 2,000 now parking needs, whereas previously I was worried about 5. So here we are. Obviously want to partner with you to determine the best situation, of course. We are pleased to hear, let me just say, I'm also part of one of the local neighborhood associations. We are pleased to hear that we assume the city as well as the college and everybody involved that you are open to having parking restrictions, reasonable ones for those of us that just live 2 blocks away. I do not live south. I live east, but people will park there if I'm just a couple blocks away from the facility, right? So we are concerned about having appropriate restrictions, and we're pleased to hear that you're going to entertain that. I want to make just one other comment, is that the new news that I heard today is that, we're hearing this is an ice hockey arena, right? And there's 18 to 24 events planned per year for that. And when you look at the numbers though, the non-hockey events total to 37. So what I have walked away with from today, there's actually more non-hockey events planned at this facility than there are hockey events. And so I appreciated the demand analysis that was done. For those non-hockey events, the demand was articulated to be less insofar as the number of parking. My ask would be to please, we need to do, maybe that was optimistic planning, but just look at a range. It might be even more. We're building a facility that can seat, 3,600, an assumption that these non-events would only be 1,000 or so. I would just ask, let's look at a range. on projecting demand. So,
Great. Thank you. Appreciate the
claps
comments.
on that one, but.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Doug Lane. I've been in Illinois with him for quite a while. The first thing I had in mind was the 55 seconds at the intersection you were talking about, or the 65 seconds, did not take into account the 5, 10, 15, or 20 minutes of driving around and around and around, trying to find a parking space in a dispersed parking situation as opposed to a concentrated. Any comments?
No, it's not. There's another one on the stand there.
I got it.
Okay.
Okay, great comment. I would say in regards to that, when we're looking at intersections and how they operate, we're looking at traffic coming in into those, into those areas, into the area, and looking at the intersection analysis. It's difficult to predict how much will and if people will circulate through the neighborhood. So the way part of this effort would be to put together a parking management plan, and this dispersed approach would take a lot of communicating to season ticket holders. This is where you park. Communicating to those one game ticket holders. This is where you park. So that'll be on the college and their operations crew and the parking management plan to get out information so people know where to go, so we can limit that amount of circulation that goes through, as people circulate for parking. And if most of the attendees will be season ticket holders, and they'll get the routine down, they'll know where to go, and they'll find their parking spots where they want to go there, and they'll find their secret hiding space that they like to park at, and people will work that out as they are the regular visitors to the event. So I mean, that quantifying that is it's difficult to do, but so the way we address that is communication and information on where to park.
Okay, my second question is kind of a bottom line question. You changed your plan, your original plan, which had a parking structure in it, to one that does not. Is that a done deal, or is there a possibility that you're going to build a parking structure? And if there is a possibility, what are the chances of that?
A parking structure. In the master plan, you noted that it was a 4-story parking structure. I think it was 100 cars per floor. Looking at building heights and things of that nature, this would dominate that particular block in no way, shape, or form. What we would be concerned about right now is a parking structure of that size. I think we're looking at $7.2 to $9.2 million to build a parking structure of that size. Right now, I can tell you that's not on the plans associated with Robson Arena. But if in fact, through this process and through these discussions, if in fact it's determined that that's the direction the college needs to go, I think that's part of the process, and that's why we're here.
I take it that you're saying that it is not a done deal?
It needs to be part of the discussion, especially as we talk about dispersed and concentrated.
Yes or no answer.
I'm sorry. It is. Ask me one more time.
It's not a done deal, or it is a done deal?
Right now, it is not a done deal.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. There's 2 items I want to go ahead and bring up. Before I do, I would just like to say that I am totally on board with this idea. Robson Arena, it needs to be built. Let me back up and say my name is Lee Seward, and I'm a season ticket holder. So I'm excited, and I believe in the end, all of this will work out. I trust everyone involved in this process, and I have faith that everything eventually will work out just fine. So thank you again for the opportunity. 2 items to bring up, as I mentioned. One, I just learned of this today, and I think some others are concerned about it as well. A bit disappointed that it looks like the 3D Art Center, not the Fine Arts Center, but the 3D Art Center is projected to stay where it currently is. And as a reminder, that's on the site, on the block where the new arena will be built. I think I and others are hoping that it's possible in the future that that could be moved elsewhere so that that valuable space could be used for additional parking or needed as see fits for Robson Arena. And if anyone wants to speak to that, they can, but they certainly don't have to. As a fan, I and others are concerned about that. The second item that I'll mention, and I did not think of this until today, so I appreciate others mentioning this to me. I think most of us will agree that at the Broadmoor One Arena, the parking lot is a pretty secure location. Now, in this current environment, I think others feel that walking to the new arena will be a bit more risky, or for lack of other terms, we're concerned about security. So if anyone can address that as well, that's appreciated about security getting from vehicles 2, 3, 4 blocks away to Robson Arena. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. One final comment. Colorado College is in the process of hiring a new athletic director. In my opinion, it needs to be Scott Holenberg.
Okay, I'll start with the 3D Arts. 3D Arts is it's an academic program, certainly supports our 3D Arts program within our art community. We do not have an additional home or a comparable home for the 3D Arts program at this time, so that's why it would stick around for right now. We'll see where that might all go, but certainly if in fact the natatorium were to come online, which is part of the master plan, as you saw, the 3D Arts building would have to find, or that function would have to find another place. That's certainly not on the table right now related to that particular question.
Yes, ma'am. Over here.
Hello, I'm Monica Hobbs, and I'm the president of the Near North End Neighborhood Association. For those of you who may not be aware, the neighborhood that this arena will be put into is called historically the Near North End. It's not the old North End. We were the original North End to the city until it expanded out. So keep that name in mind when we talk about Near North End. And also, if there are people here who live in the Near North End neighborhood, and we encompass from Cash down to Bijou and the park to the alley behind Wasatch. So if you're there, it'd be great if you sign up with us. We have a Facebook page, and anyhow, we'll have a mailing list, and we have been in discussions with CC in the past, and so we are one of the groups that will be communicating with them and with city planning and other people. So we'd love to have everyone's input and participation. And that said, we have, as the board has come up with several concerns that are parking and traffic, the size and density and use of this arena, environmental and safety concerns, as well as communication concerns. And we've also made up a list of about 50 questions that we have that we've also given to city planning. So we're really putting our head into all the aspects. From what I've heard other people speak about, is we're looking at the neighborhood as a whole and how it impacts everybody and everything that's within it, and the idea of what's in the future. So I just wanted to get that out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a question for Todd. And Todd and I have worked on traffic for Steele Elementary in the past, so I'd like to ask you about how you determined the area for street parking, because I live on Cascade, and you have decided that people are going to be parking in front of my house. And I can tell you that the whole west side of Cascade Avenue is residential. And the problem with not just that street, but all the other streets you've identified and beyond, is that most of these homes don't have garages or driveways. And so these people need to park in front of their home. And now you're going to have this event that comes and they come home from work and they can't park there. So you've decided some neighborhoods that could maybe have permit parking, but now these people have to have it. And even on the west side of Cascade, there are a lot of apartment buildings And I spoke to them yesterday, and they said that even with Fine Arts Center events and the parades, they have people parking in their apartment parking lots. And these people also need to park out front. And also, there are many multi-residential buildings in that area. So you're not just having one family who needs to park in the street, you have maybe 10 people who need to park there. So why do you think that area is a better place than anywhere else?
Fair question, good question. Thank you, Monica. So we picked the area to south. I'd say that looking at that area, we walked the streets and did some counts in those areas to see who's parking there today, and found about half of those spaces are occupied by on a Friday night and a Saturday and a Saturday night. So we feel there's some availability of that street parking to the south. Now, in our analysis, we tried to be as conservative sort of as possible, so we just sort of picked that sort of that narrow area. I recognize that there are other areas to the south that people could park it on the street, and decided not to include that in our calculations in this preliminary analysis. Now, and then we said, so that was sort of the logic behind picking that sort of 3 blocks to the south. I think that we showed those residential parking permit programs in the areas to the north and to the east. I think that's something that can even be entertained in certain areas in that south end where you have a heavy concentration. Because I know there's some residential in that area, and that in those south end, maybe there's specific blocks. You break it down by block by block. There could be some restrictions to kind of keep those spaces open for those residents who do have to park there. So I think that's something we can explore and look at and work through, as we continue to evolve and develop this parking plan.
And you definitely need to take it into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. And Monica, if you would, you indicated you had a list of questions from the neighborhood. If you could leave those in the comment boxes out there, that would be great. And we appreciate, we met with Monica a couple weeks ago, and we learned a lot of that input, which really helped us with our FAQs to be ready for today. So bring on more. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Swanson. I am an active and supporter of Colorado College and Colorado College hockey for more than 25 years, and also retiree at Colorado College. My question, and maybe it's Scott that can address this, how did you come up with the average attendance per game? That seems to me a little low, especially during the heyday of Colorado College and 5, 6, 8 years ago when we would go to the NCAA tournament. So I'd be interested to know how you came up with that.
Yeah, boy, I could probably talk to you for an hour about that. But so I've been at there's so many great questions, and there's so many things like I want to talk about and be able to tell you guys, some things. I used to work at Tulane University, right in heart of New Orleans, and some of the things. Obviously, that's why this is our first community meeting. But I'm excited to work with y'all because we have plans that'll work. I mean, we built a 20,000 seat football stadium on our Tulane campus with residential right around, and there are ways to work, and there's ways to work the traffic flow and the parking to where you get your season ticket holders in certain areas. It's a plan that'll work, and I look forward to working with y'all. But in terms of attendance, yeah. So what's happened, you might even have noticed if you've been going to the games this year, we've actually, with us knowing that Robson Arena is on the horizon, we've cut out a lot of complimentary tickets and things like that. So this year, you might notice our attendance is actually a little bit lower. What we're doing more now is this new arena, you're right, when we play Denver or North Dakota, we probably technically are going to be turning away fans. You're exactly right. But for all of our other games, now it's going to be sold out. So this venue is going to be a sold out atmosphere, a packed atmosphere, to where we know we can take care of our season ticket holders. We know we can take care of our students that are interested in going. And that's basically what's going to happen. Because you're right, like a DU game or a North Dakota game, we may technically sell less tickets, but for the overall experience and what's best for the hockey program at Colorado College, it's better to have this size kind of in that 3,000 to 3,600 range. And we've been getting, a lot of feedback on that. And it's just something that we're excited to do. And it's something that's actually common in college athletics and even pro athletics right now. If you want to Google it, you can. A lot of people are actually making their venues smaller nowadays because it's all about having that packed atmosphere. Just up the road, if you talk to anybody at Air Force, do they wish Falcon Stadium was smaller? If they were honest, they would tell you yes.
I love you, Scott. You didn't answer my question. Well, how did you arrive at the average?
Okay, so the average attendance,
that's this couple of years, last 2 or 3 years, or has it been historical?
Yeah, it's been the last few years. So you're right. What you have to factor in is a program is not always going to be ranked top 5 in the country. So you might say, yeah. But back when Marty Surich and Brett Sterling and Joey Crabb were here, there were probably 6,000 fans in the stands. What we're looking at is a long stand vision. So you're right. So that average attendance right now of a little over 3,400, that's actually tickets sold, even tickets comped right now. It's basically all the people that have a ticket, even including the students. And then when you saw that 2,800 number of scanned, so we've been keeping track in recent years, again, knowing that Robson Arena is on the horizon. About 2,800 per game is actually scanned, actually people coming into the arena. So does that help you at all?
Not really, but I'm thinking in the future when we actually are getting back into the swing of things. I'm not saying we need to build a world arena here or anything like that, but I'm thinking a 3,000 or 3,600 arena is a tad bit too small. Maybe a 4,000 or 4,200 might be a more appropriate arena for that. And personally, as a season holder, I deal with economics, and I can see exactly what is going to happen. Is that as you start selling these tickets out, my season ticket price is just going to go way, way, way high because it's the supply and a lot of supply and demand. And so that kind of worries me on that end. I think it's a great opportunity for Colorado Springs, for the downtown area, for Colorado College. But I do, along with the impact of the parking and all that, but I do worry that we're underselling this opportunity to have a world-class arena for our community.
I respect your feedback and I understand what you're saying. There's probably a few points I'd like to make. Kind of hit some of the other people in here that you're hearing from is one reason not to make the arena too big. We are a part of this community and we do have to worry about parking and traffic flow. So that is a big reason to not have it over 4,000 seats. And then the other part of it is supply and demand. You're exactly right. I know Colorado College right now, a lot of people that are involved with Colorado College, it's not about making money. We're not like the Denver Broncos. This is about, an experience. We want people, that's probably the coolest thing about this is now our fans, and Joe Smith that's a fan that's maybe from Texas or someone that's here that's a UCLA alum, when they go to our events right now, it's at the World Arena. They're meeting World Arena employees. They're sitting in purple seats. This is going to be a Colorado College facility. We're excited to get people on campus. One of the lots you saw is you're going to be able to park by the library. How cool is it going to be? You're going to be parking on the library on a college campus night, walking through campus to go to a Colorado College event, where when you enter the arena, you're meeting Colorado College students that are taking your tickets. And it's a Colorado College event where it's black and gold, it's branded Colorado College. And then even from a college standpoint, there's a lot of people that don't even know about the things that Colorado College is doing. A lot of people that go to our hockey games, it's all about hockey. Well, we're excited to be able to talk about what else the college is doing and having our own venue, we're going to be able to do that. But you're right. I was here. I've been here 13 years. I was here when Marty Surich and Brett Sterling, and I can remember some packed nights when CCDU sold out in advance, and that's not happening right now. It's very exciting to have this size arena to where we will have supply and demand. And one thing that's good for you all, again, we are not interested in selling season tickets for more money, but one thing that will be neat is all of our season ticket holders, actually the value of the season ticket is going to go up, because most season ticket holders only go to 12 games a year. So all those other games, now we're going to actually develop a secondary market, and obviously there's lots of secondary markets where you'll be able to sell your tickets to the other games for all those people that want tickets, all those people that aren't season ticket holders. Like, hey, how do I get a ticket? Well, guess what? In today's world of secondary market ticket selling, there's going to be that opportunity. And then it's something else for people to think about, that if you're worried about this, when our students are on block break, which we do have a lot of block breaks. CC is unique. You go to school every 3.5 weeks. You might have a home weekend on a block break. So now we'll be able to sell those tickets to the general public on those particular nights. But hopefully I answered the question, sort of.
Thank you. Good. Move on.
Let's move on.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you. My name is Linda Weiss. I'm the CEO of the Colorado Springs Conservatory. First, I want to give kudos to Lisa. Outstanding format and a lot of integrity, and we really appreciate that. Colorado College, thank you. And the city, Bob Cope, thank you for all that you do. There's so much work that goes on behind the scenes, and we're terribly grateful. The Conservatory is a 25-year partner at the college. And I am a huge fan of all things downtown. Thrilled for the students for this effort. My daughter is a Ram. I never understood truly the power of a stadium, but now I do. I'm an Oberlin grad, so I'm very similar to the Colorado College dynamic. This will certainly be a game changer for the students, and that's really what this is all about, right? It is about community. We want to retain these young people. But we're grateful for the opportunity to be present here and learn, and I congratulate you all on this brilliant vision, and proud to be a partner and support however best we at the Conservatory can. I just ask, this is not a question, and we don't need to speak to it, that along the way, we are certain to continue to communicate with arts audiences. Many of our constituents are old, and they regularly attend events at the Fine Arts Center, Packard, here at Cornerstone on Friday and Saturday nights, and I am certain that with all the models that they're out there, walking is any distance is an issue for these folks. And a simple solution of timing of events and a communication mechanism perhaps, for instance, can be just part of that dynamic, because we want to bring those generations together, correct? I mean, this is about honoring all culture. So you all are brilliant, and I'm certain that you've already thought about something like that. I'd also be a huge fan and would help you raise whatever money you needed to make walkways that went over the street. I would do that, and Bob knows I'm good for that, right? Lisa, you know I'm good for that. I think it would keep so many students safe with this, and I think it would be it would be part of a solution to so much of what we're hearing. Again, thank you for the sharing, and congratulations to you all on a brilliant enhancement to downtown. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Actually, I want to piggyback on that, and this would have been better when more people were here, but I just am curious, two questions. One, how many people actually walked here today by show of hands? Okay, handful. And my second is for the gentleman from the EDC. I'm really curious to know what the Colorado College's economic impact on the city of Colorado Springs is, and what the projections for the arena, the downtown arena, might be in terms of adding to the city's coffers.
You know, that is a great question, and I wish I could rattle off all of those economic impacts just off the top of my head, but I'll be happy to share those with you. I know that Colorado College does an economic impact analysis and report on an occasional basis, just showing the impact of having this tremendous college in the community. In addition to that, we have done a full economic impact analysis on City for Champions, and basically just based on the number of net new out-of-state visitors and the job creation. And it's in the billions of dollars over a 30-year period of time, and I'd be happy to share some of the fiscal impacts too. I just don't have those with me today. But the point is, it is significant.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is John, and I own a yoga studio at the corner of Weber and Dale, which is about a block and a half away from the proposed site. There are lots of other businesses in that area too. I'm not the only one. And no matter what the parking plan is, it's guaranteed that during any event, all of the spaces in that area outside of my business and outside of the other businesses in that area will be filled. And they'll be filled during my peak business hours and on weekends and on evenings. And that'll be the case for the other businesses there as well. It will inevitably harm my business for sure. It's also in the proposed residential parking permit area, which if that was implemented, that would just chop off the head of my business right away rather than bleed it. That would be a big problem. So no matter how this plays out, my business is in trouble, and I imagine that others are as well. So before I ask my question, I do just want to mention, for what it's worth, I think the idea of creating, of building an event center with 3,500 seats and not also building an appropriate parking structure and just assuming that the community should deal with it and take it all on themselves and, you know, deal with whatever hardships they might have is really outrageous, I think. And my question is, what is going to be done to support a business, a local business owner like me, who is truly in danger of losing my business over this?
Trying to address the first piece, and obviously when we're showing this concept of residential parking permit, we've kind of drawn and shown a blanket approach. And in the same way that we had the individual who was concerned about residential parking in the areas we've identified for on-street, that same kind of a nuance would need to be addressed also in those areas if you're going to do a residential parking permit. Because you're absolutely right. Therefore, there are several blocks where you have a mixed use. You have both residential and you have commercial or business interests. And so that would have to be figured out. That would have to be worked out. And that's that whole finer grain and finer detail that we'll need to get into. So that was the first half. The second, you had a second question?
Yeah, the second part was what is going to be done by anyone to support local businesses that are in danger of going out of business because of this plan.
As far as the impact on business, first of all, I would like to learn more about the individual circumstances of your business. And I'm sure my office, probably Susan Edmondson and others at Downtown Partnership, would do everything we could to accommodate yours. But taking a step back, what we're looking at is we're looking at a multi-million-dollar investment by Colorado College downtown, bringing fans and spectators and visitors into our area. The City of Colorado Springs and the Chamber and EDC, we do a regional leaders trip on a regular basis where we go to successful cities and look and see what have they done to become successful and vitalize their economies. In almost every case, downtown sports and event centers are part of the formula that have totally revitalized the downtown. And by making this investment and bringing people to the area, which are potential customers for your business, we're hoping for just the opposite, that this will be a significant improvement. Just take a look up I-25 at Coors Field and those areas where they put those stadiums in, and those areas are thriving. Property values are through the roof. So the goal of this is the opposite of what you're talking about. Now, I understand you may have unique circumstances, and we'll do everything we can to accommodate that, but I would like to kind of turn that whole premise around on its head. This is a tremendous opportunity for this community, for our downtown, for our city, for economic vibrancy and opportunity, and that's what the goal is here. There will be challenges, and we'll do everything we can to address those specific challenges.
If people can't park at my business, they can't come to my business, which is why you need to build an appropriate parking structure.
So, sir, if you would as well, just like the other lady from All Souls, put your name and contact information, phone number, and circle it as a business, because we do want to meet. We recognize that businesses have different, unique concerns and issues than the residents. And so we want to be sure we're meeting with you individually as well as a group of businesses. So give me your contact information. Thank you.
I'm Cheryl Brown, and I'm coming as a different person now, not as the board member of the Near North End, but I'm coming as a person who lives on Dale, and I'm a block and a half away. And I look out my front porch and I see that corner. And I really kind of object to the building being against Dale, imposing on the neighborhood. If CC wants it, they should move it over to Cash. I know you've got some cement building over there or whatever, but I think the orientation of that is very imposing in the neighborhood. I can see it from my front porch. And 55 foot or 45, whatever, it's huge. Put it on Cash, and orient it not on Dale. Because this is the residential, this is where you guys have to kind of compromise with the neighborhood. And I also want to say I love that yoga studio. And I understand what he's saying, is that to not fess up to a parking garage when you're getting $9 million C4C for events that you guys are promising, but claiming to only have a partial amount of them. In any case, it doesn't matter. You're getting $9 million. You're coming up with $30 million on your own, $9 million C4C. That's taxpayer dollars. That's tax dollars coming in tourism. Fess up to a parking garage with that money. You said it would cost $10 million. RTA will give you $10 million. Get a parking structure so you don't destroy the businesses here that make the downtown the beautiful place that it is. And I love that yoga studio. Thank you so much for your studio.
Hi, my name is Pam Walsey, and I've only been a resident of Colorado Springs since the mid-1950s. And I've only lived in the North End, my family, since 1963.
Ma'am, could I ask that maybe you get a little closer to the microphone? We just want to be able to hear you.
Okay, I have a degree from Colorado College. I am a lifelong CC hockey fan. I have a nephew who for 2 years was a starting player for CC hockey team. And the last time I was in Alaska, I had dinner with Joey Crabb. So I care a lot about CC, and I'm not necessarily opposed to the arena, but my home is 1 block on Weber from the proposed arena. There is no parking already. And my issue is that this is a cumulative problem. CC does this to us every time. They keep pushing the parking issue down the road. Now we're just talking about the parking issue for this arena, not for the next CC project. Over the last 20 years, you've taken over 500 parking places away from the streets in our neighborhoods and in this area. And now you're going to bring all these new issues and new parking issues in, and you are not going to build a parking structure. That's just not right. We've suffered enough. We've tried to be good neighbors. We've been very supportive of Colorado College. I have been my entire life, but enough is enough. And my question is, when are we finally going to be heard? When are we finally going to get an avenue that has some real teeth, so when CC does this, and if they don't build a parking garage, and we do have problems, we're actually heard and addressed? That was a question. When and how? How are we going to have these issues addressed with some real teeth, where we're not shined on? I mean, there's a group of North Enders that are starting a honk to be heard project, where every time we drive through the CC campus, we want to honk our horns. So maybe we'll be heard that way, since we don't seem to ever be heard any other way.
Related to being heard, you are being heard right now.
I mean, after the fact, when this happens and we have problems, how do we actually get the problem solved?
Well, this is step one, and certainly as we look at the sequential steps as we move forward, I think the parking garage discussion, as well as maybe even other at-grade parking avenues, might have to be investigated as we start to work through whether it be the workshops or the continual community meetings. We need to figure out what this venue is going to cost, and figure out what additional dollars we might have to maybe do some other things if in fact those additional dollars might exist. But I think you're making your case right now, and you are being heard, and we want to hear more from you as we move forward in this discussion.
And we have heard this kind of talk before. We're being heard now, but then when the problems come up after the project's built, we're not heard. And we need to have some guarantee that we will be, and remedial action will be taken for us.
I can't guarantee you what type of action, but you will be heard, and you will have some type of closure on why the college came to the conclusion that they came to. Is that fair?
No, I don't think so, because we're asking for help now with problems we already have, and it's falling on deaf ears. And those with parking issues.
I understand what you're saying. But related to the parking discussion that we've had so far today, I think a case could be made that parking does exist. But at the same time, we want to verify that what you've seen today is in fact something that you think is real. And we need to continue that discussion and move that forward. This is, like I said, step one. And that's why we're here, is we're here to listen to what you have to say and then take action and generate some degree of compromise as we move forward. If in fact
questions, and then the team will be down there in the lobby still for a little bit longer for anyone that would like to speak to them directly. So, yes, ma'am.
Okay, my name's Diane Jones. I'm a season ticket holder for many years. So security, the one gentleman talked a little bit about security, but he did not go into any things. As a single female, I have 2 season tickets. I'm one of those that usually doesn't bring anyone with me, so one ticket doesn't get a game, or I give it away at the door. But I like to support CC, so I've kept doing the 2 tickets. I am concerned. When I arrive at World Arena, there are policemen, there are people in the parking lot, there is great lights. I tend to show up late sometimes because I work late on Fridays, and I feel very comfortable walking into the arena at the beginning of the second period. Walking across CC campus, I was a college student. We didn't walk alone across campuses at night in the dark. What security are you going to provide from whatever parking lot you put season ticket holders in off campus, that I will be safe arriving before or leaving early from a game and walking out by myself? So that's one question. We can't carry our purses into World Arena anymore. Our purses are left in the cars, locked. At least there's a presence, there's lights, there's a lot of people. Well, how are you going to make sure that my purse is secure? Because sometimes I go out to eat before I come to the game. I want to have my stuff with me. I can't bring it into World Arena anymore. That's a concern. I live in the neighborhood east of here. Coming up Uinta is now a 1 lane till you hit Nevada. How will that handle increased traffic with the traffic guy? So that is a concern. And Willamette is having access with utility stuff, so that's a concern, because that'll go on for a couple years. What incentive? No, I'm going to kind of go out on the limb, but you talked about doing different community, like making sure Fine Arts Center activities aren't going on with World Arena or with the hockey activities. But as a symphony season ticket holder also, that has been an issue at UCCS this year. Softball games going on with softball people in the parking lots, and symphony people, you arrive, I'm parking in a dirt field and walking in my heels into the symphony. Not real cool, I didn't like that. So I hope that you have a better plan and pay attention to the events, not just off, but what if you have a basketball game, a swim meet, a soccer game, other things going on, something at this beautiful facility. You can't schedule those at the same time. It doesn't work. And then the other thing I have, and this is not going to be very politically incorrect, but I'm going to say it because it's one of the things that has bugged me for several years. When I first moved out, when we first moved to World Arena and we were going to the games there, man, the students came, and my tickets are right next to the student section. My kids were like 4 and 5, and I just told them, what you hear at the arena stays at the arena. You don't say that stuff at school, because we're next to college students. Then a few years ago, they decided the students were not acting appropriately, and they shut them down, and the students quit coming. So as much as you say you want students to come, how are you going to entice them to come back to the games when you treat them like they are criminals? I mean, you don't let them cheer, you don't let them drink. I mean, I don't know why, but they don't come to the games anymore. Maybe a few for DU, but pretty much you have families sitting in the student sections now. At DU, when my daughter was a student there, you only sat in the student section if you were a DU student. So I bought season tickets to go to the game so that she'd come sit with me. So just thoughts on this whole process. I'm excited that they'll actually have like an NHL-sized sheet of ice. I think they almost play better on that. I'm excited that CC's trying to bring this here, but I think there's a lot of things that need to be addressed around this to make it successful. Thank you.
Okay, I'll start with that. Coach will talk about the NHL sheet ice. But with your point about some of the things that we talked about, Scott talked a little bit about it, about the pedestrian concept behind an on-campus arena. Over 50% of the student body at Colorado College are female. If there is one thing that drives kids wanting, or girls wanting to go to a particular college, it has got to be a consideration around safety. So we see that as absolutely paramount around what it is that we are doing. If in fact we are already working with Colorado Springs Police Department on traffic-related issues as well as pedestrian mode-related issues, lighting issues, all of those different things are certainly considerations that are at the very, very top of what we are doing. But any type of bump in the road related to safety considerations in the environment that we are in, the very sort of urban environment that we are in down here, is something that's not going to be acceptable to anybody here at Colorado College, and we are going to see that as absolutely paramount. Related to students at games, Jill Tiefenthaler, the president of Colorado College, has made it very, very clear to me that students will be at these games. You can see our size ranges somewhere in between the 550-ish to 650 side of things. It is our absolute hope and intent that all of those seats are taken every single home game. If the students are here, we want them in the stands. So that is something that is certainly a concern that we have having now an on-campus arena.
My name is Katie. Thank you for staying long today for us to be able to answer our questions. I live 2 blocks north of the campus, and I work 2 blocks south of the campus, and I'm a former college swimmer. And I have 3 things that I would like to see prepared as some added dynamics for when we have the January 19th meeting. Some nuances that as I was listening, I saw some gaps that I would love to hear more about when we have our next meeting. So I rent an apartment in the Old North End, and there are 3 people that live in my house, and we're all required to park on the street, and the house next to me has 20 people living in it, and we all have to park on the street. So looking at the residential parking permit thing, and looking at what's the density of residential parking that's already happening in the surrounding neighborhoods, and how much space really do we have when, again, a lot of houses don't have driveways or garages. So looking at the renter component for the neighborhood would be great. I learned about this meeting because someone in the near north end put a little flyer on my door 2 days ago. Otherwise, I would have not known about it. Communication with homeowners that are remote from those 2 neighborhoods surrounding the campus. How are we going to talk about residential parking permit when the homeowners live somewhere else and you have a higher turnover population with renters? Something to consider. Next one. The natatorium that I saw in the master plan, I just wonder if this is a little inefficient to be thinking about one part of this block and not considering the entire master plan for having a natatorium right next to the hockey stadium. I'm excited for the hockey team to have the experience and for the culture that will develop as they get to be on campus and students come to their games right there. But their season is the same time as the men and women's season for swimming, and I've supported that team for the last couple of years. When the natatorium comes over to the new place, potentially, and you have an invitational or they host conferences, and it's the same season, and you have 6 or 7 charter buses of different teams coming, and the natatorium is going to take a larger footprint than what the 3D art building currently has, you're going to lose parking spaces there and have an increase of charter buses. So looking at the entire parking and transportation dynamic when you have a natatorium, USA Swimming is a huge sport in Colorado. There's great opportunity for that facility to be used in that way. So I just want to think about the natatorium and holistically about the whole block and where it's going. And then the last thing is to hear a little bit about how the Olympic Museum and the plans for downtown Colorado Springs, that's going to take some of the parking spaces out of the downtown garages, and the demand that we will see with this new arena is going to be competing with the other developments that are happening. So if we can hear about renters and residential parking a little bit more, natatorium considerations, and how parking demands with sharing that demand with the rest of the new things that are coming to downtown. I would love to hear about that on January 19th. Thanks.
Great, thank you. I will talk about the communication, the outreach. Can we always do more? Yeah, absolutely. So we mailed a postcard to all of the property owners and the residents and the property owners surrounding the area. We had the newsletter going out. We've got on the website. We put out news releases. We posted on every media calendar, a good number of them. And I do appreciate, I think it was Miss Morgan that went door to door with the doorknob.
That got to me, but as a donor and a renter, I didn't hear any communication get to me. I don't doubt that you did that, but it didn't get to me.
We can do more. And so,
absolutely.
Any help? And then social media, we've done a lot of that as well, but we can always do more, so thank you.
I'll get on social media with Colorado College.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Ruth Kalorick. I live in the North End, and I also teach here at Colorado College. And so thank you very much for this informative presentation. I'm wondering, is there going to be some sort of comparable presentation to the faculty and students of the college? Because I think that it's underestimated the degree of concern and even opposition to this project that has evolved from a practice arena, which was the equivalent of the Hananas arena, to this event arena. And I think students and faculty are concerned about the same things that the neighborhood is concerned. What will be the impact on our campus and our day-to-day lives of something this large that attracts this many people, not just for the games, but for these other events. And I think that there may be a kind of misapprehension. I only know the students that I happen to be acquainted with, but I think that the degree of enthusiasm for hockey has declined on campus. And I don't know if that's because of the results, the disconnect between the older hockey players and the current students. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe campus culture. And I would also like to point out that on all the master plans that you've shown, that arena was to replace Honda. It was to be a practice arena. And so I also have been involved in the master planning process, and each of these professional master plans has asked for parking structures, because this is an ongoing concern for the last 15 years. And every time the structure is built, whether it's East Campus or the library, whatever, but the parking has been just pushed aside. And I think that really needs to have serious consideration. Same thing happened with the cornerstones. And somehow that's the least popular thing to build, but it seems that it's really, really a significant need, and the college needs to address that.
Ruth, it's good to see you. I wanted you to know that I agree with you. I think the campus needs to understand and have an opportunity to sort of engage, whether it be with the designers, sort of an expanded design review board opportunity and engagement that talks about everything from traffic to parking, to the architecture, to everything in terms of how it is going to work. Because we are trying to absolutely make this venue a student-centric experience, right? We want to cultivate what's going on with the student body. There are going to be spaces in this building that are also going to support the academic side of things. They're going to support the art department side of things. So we want to make sure that we are able to adequately convey those items in a manner that's appropriate. So I will, as you know, I used to sit on the DRB. I will make sure that is passed along, and then we sort of open that up in sort of a little bit larger DRB type of engagement with the campus to do so.
And is there a plan to have our master planners that have been contracted over the past few years to revise the master plan in light of this changed venue?
Oh, I think we absolutely have to, because the point that you brought up around what the LRD piece is, as well as the 2015 master plan, campus master plan, all talk about various different things that to some degree have probably moved an inch or two left or right. So I think that's an appropriate, and on an annual basis, I think that's what our plans are, would be to engage them to update the master plan in some type of formal manner that gets back to the trustees, as you know.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you. We're down to 4 more, so we're getting there, folks. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Katie Cornelius. I've been in Colorado Springs for 50 years of my life, and I've been part of the Art Center and CC for probably 40-ish years in various ways of living, including living in Old North End. So I've got several different thoughts in my brain right now, so excuse me. Todd, you were talking about the parking as a specific, this is how much based on just the arena. And several other people touched on it very lightly, but there are many times you have something in Warner, Armstrong, Packard, Fine Arts Center, here at the Cornerstone. You're going to have the Robson, you have the Natatorium right now. Things, you are only talking about one little event out of all of those other places that are using parking spaces. So that's question number 1. Number 2, I went to one of the ACM schools that had an ice arena on campus, and I'm not really quite sure if the arenas that you were talking about previously of being in other universities and colleges and how it seems to be the way to go. It almost feels like you're trying to put an arena into pre-existing element rather than having the arena have been grown into the college as it sort of started, or in the 50s. I mean, that's basically what Honan was for a very short period of time. But you're trying to put basically a rectangle into a square, and it might not fit because you're working with all the other demands around. The very last thing, and it's probably going to be more of a comment, and it doesn't have to do with parking or traffic, but I have a concern based on, before we had the World Arena built in the late 90s, and we were in the Quonset hut over near the Broadmoor and then up at Air Academy. There was no alcohol served in those venues. With World Arena, they have alcohol, they've got beer and spirits being served. And if you're bringing the arena onto campus, I certainly hope you would not have alcohol served there because you're doing a disservice to your students. I was an employee of CC for almost 20 years. I had seen a couple of people die because of alcohol-related issues. And I would hate, and there are only special events have alcohol being served. And I don't think the Robson Arena should be considered a special event because you've got too many underage participants. So thank you.
Thank you. So there were a lot of comments in there. I don't know if we wanted to address all the other events already going on campus.
I have a question.
I'll address this, the comment, the question about other events, potentially in the, around the campus, especially maybe here at Cornerstone or elsewhere. The college will need to coordinate those so that the lots that we're talking about being available for hockey are available for those games, and so that events, fortunately a lot of these venues, other venues on campus are under a college control, and they can work master calendar to figure that.
But you only have 3.5 weeks for some things to happen because the students don't hang around during block break. In fact, a lot of them are told, like the holiday breaks, they're told to get off campus. So you only have 3.5 weeks to fit all of those student activities events into.
Right, when they're in school, right? I mean, they have a block break. I don't think I understand your question about the 3.5 weeks and.
Well, everything, the students, if they're involved in whatever that event is, they're only doing it during the regular block time period, not during block break.
Right, they are.
So that limits how many things can happen, events that can happen in that time frame.
Right, so when you talk about sort of this idea of sort of non-hockey events, already those cannot occur per the agreements during when school's in session. They can only occur during those academic breaks, block break, winter, and summer break. So that's, now hockey, it's different, it's Friday and Saturday nights. Those are all scheduled, everybody knows when those are happening, and so the college will need to work with the facilities around here and not schedule events that overlap with home hockey games so that the parking can be available for that hockey event.
Okay, yes, sir.
Hello, my name is AJ Frasca. My grandfather played on the 1950 National Championship team, Tony Frasca. My cousin is Marty Sturdich, winner of the Hobie Baker. My grandfather started Pedino's Restaurant in 1974 downtown. I think he'd be honored that I'm here to speak and represent his college and his community. I'm not a very good public speaker, so bear with me. I've heard questions about structure, parking, historical preservation, jobs in the arena, safety, local businesses, as it will impact my family's downtown as well. Who's in charge of ensuring this will impact our future generations in a positive way, like it has me? My children will be in that arena. Who's going to make sure that all these questions are not answered, but shown to my kids on how to move forward with the character, integrity, and leadership that's been in this meeting? So when that arena is erected and that team is on the ice winning and my kids are there, who's going to make sure that it's not about the building or the parking and those things, but the things that are missing in this community, like character, leadership, and integrity? Anybody have an answer?
We'll note all that, and again, through the process, hopefully you'll get those answers. Yes, sir.
Got a couple of questions. You guys, what were the square footage of the building that you guys were discussing? 66,000?
The building footprint is approximately, at this point, I understand we're still in concept, it's about 62,000 square feet. That's the outside building footprint.
That is not what CC recommended in their letter. It's 120-some thousand square feet.
Great question. So when you talk about square feet, usually think about inside the arena, you've got floor space, underneath a concourse area, that's square footage inside the building. So if you have a 2-story house, your square footage is twice. your building
I understand that.
footprint.
What is the
So
square footage on the outside diameter of the building that you guys are planning on building?
62,000 square feet. That's where we are at this point.
That's the outside diameter.
That's the outside. If you were to take that rectangle that we're showing conceptually,
Right.
it's the 62,000 square feet.
Okay, so Colorado College did not represent what they were saying in their letters then.
No, sir, if I could interject, because I had that same question earlier tonight, and Chris had to explain it to me. The 120,000 square feet is the total square feet within the building. So the floors up above, the main floor down below, that comes out to 120,000. The footprint, the outside diameter, that's the 62,000 that Chris is referring to. I had the same question, and he clarified it. So the difference is the total square footage of the entire building inside and out versus the footprint of the outside of the building.
And in comparison, I don't know what the interior square footage of the World Arena, but when we looked at the outside perimeter, that's where that 95,000, I think I've got the number right, pretty close. But if you were to actually measure the square footage, I mean, think about the arena, you have space down below, you have all of that concourse area, and so that square footage would also be much, much larger than the outside building footprint of 95,000 square feet. Hope that helps.
Is the concessions in this stadium going to be taxed so the taxpayer gets something out of the stadium since everything that you're building is tax-free?
I would need to probably look to Bob on that, or I don't know the answer to that one. So, yeah, if it's a sale, but we can follow up with you on that and get a response. I just don't know the answer.
I would like
I
to
presume
know
the answer is yes.
how many parking spaces that you guys are actually including on your plan. Are you including C1, C2, and what's the other parking lots that you guys are considering using?
So what I would encourage you, I would encourage you to outside afterwards in the lobby, we can talk about very specific parking lots. We can point on that map. That's probably easier to do than here. Also, we'll be getting
Let the public know. Come on, let the public know. Let the public know what lots you're planning on using.
We can go ahead and pull it up here.
Sure.
So this map depicts those lots. These are the lots in yellow. Are Colorado College lots.
That is C1. The next one is C2.
I don't know them by their C1, C2
That's the one
nomenclatures.
right across from the stadium right now.
Yep.
That's
Okay.
Armstrong.
That's Armstrong lot. I know it is Armstrong
And then the
lot.
next one is this Arts Center. So you guys, you're saying you've got 1,000 spaces. If you don't include every one of your parking spaces from W1, W2, W3, you're not including the one E5, you're not including the new parking lot that is not finished on Weber, you guys are way short of 1,000 spaces on this campus.
We are including 381 parking spaces with these yellow the lots that are shown here.
You don't
That's
have
just
it.
part of the.
You do not have it. I've walked the lots, you do not have. If you don't include all these other parking structures, you don't have it. You don't even include the lot from the CCN that's getting ripped out. You guys are losing 140 parking spaces in that square block, period.
Be happy to walk you through block by block. We'd be happy to do that. So, yes, we are not including the lots that are at the CCN today because that lot would go away, but we are including the proposed new lot that you see there in yellow. And that's about 100 spaces. So.
I'd like to see it on a proposal. You guys have bypassed every city proposal for planning and everything else when you dropped this new stadium on December 11th. You sent out a letter. That is not complying with the master plan for 2015. You have changed the master plan completely, but yet you've had no public input. You've had
So that's why we're holding these meetings in this venue.
You should have this public input before you bring this to the citizens like you did the last time. You have bypassed every city department downtown, and now you're updating your master plan. I would think the citizens in this area would want to know ahead of time that you are updating your master plan and get input in it before you, and then submit it to the city. You guys have bypassed the whole thing.
Sir, we have not bypassed anything. I want to be clear about that because that's why we're here today.
That is correct.
And we're gathering input, and we will be putting together a master plan amendment that will be submitted to the city. That's still ahead of us.
I'm going to jump in here now and say thank you. You have a lot more questions, and we're happy to sit down with you individually and put the results of that meeting out in any way you would like. We're welcome to meet with you down and go through they said they'll meet with you and go through every one of the parking lots.
I'll be waiting.
As I said at the beginning of the meeting, I don't know if you're here, sir, or not, but what they've tried to do is come in with enough information to be able to get something for you to react to, lest we hear you guys haven't done anything, you haven't done any homework.
You guys are taking the public spaces on the streets and are using them for your own advantage.
And we'll be happy to talk that through out there as well as at the January 19th workshop. Now, we have one more person, and I want to be respectful and get her in, and then we've got to get out of this room. So thank you so much.
Jane Morgan again. I want to just segue off what some other people said, and Tam in particular and some of the others, and it has to do with the overall parking. I've been here 20 years in the Old North End, and I've watched as the college has systematically taken parking off the campus and pushed it out into our neighborhoods. It started right here with this Cornerstone Theater, 184 spots eliminated. The new dorms, another almost 200 spots were eliminated. Whether it's redesigning Cashelbooter, that took away parking. When I moved here, there was parking on Cascade Avenue through the campus, parallel parking all the way through. Now there's like about 15 spots at the very end. The restriping of Cascade Avenue eliminated more. So it's time to pay the piper. We know the college has almost $1 billion endowment. Let's build a structure, because by just compartmentalizing this project and saying, oh, we've solved this problem, you haven't solved the problems that you're hearing from everyone else. The Fine Arts Center, the events at Werner or Armstrong Hall. And so it's time to pay the piper and replace that parking you've pushed out into our neighborhoods or eliminated. So that's my concern. I mean, because now you heard from another citizen that the natatorium, what happens when the natatorium is built? Well, that's going to eliminate those parking spots you're showing. And my question is, on the master plan, Colorado College was planning to make a pedestrian plaza out of Armstrong parking lot, the one that's nearest to this structure. What is the plan? Is CC committing to keeping that parking lot there?
So, I think we've said this a lot.
No, I didn't hear an answer to Armstrong parking lot. That parking lot sits directly across from the arena site. And on the master plan, it says they're going to fill it in and make it a pedestrian plaza.
You're exactly right. That's exactly what the master plan says, Jane. Right at this time, I believe there are 94 parking places in the Armstrong lot. There are no plans to fill that in as part of what we're doing
here.
No,
I'm not asking
Robson.
for plans. I'm saying, is CC committed to leaving that parking lot there to support this arena?
For the arena purposes, yes. I mean, we have to have that parking.
So we won't see that lot being filled in the revised master plan?
In 10 years, Jane? I don't know. Maybe you will in 5
So in
years.
10
I don't
years,
know.
the arena will go away? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know.
I'm thinking long term.
I don't know what the
I'm thinking
parking.
long term. 10 years is a little bit long term.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's
the timeline on the natatorium is 5 to 10 years, Jane.
But that's unrelated to the natatorium. We're talking the arena. I'm just saying the natatorium is an example of, okay, now they take out more parking with this natatorium. But
I think it builds upon itself, Jane, and in the course of all these different things, and the development plans that have to be associated with each of these things, parking has got to be a consideration associated with all of these things. We're not going to remove a parking lot of 94 parking places when we all know that Colorado College has a parking situation. So we're not going to sort of build a plaza in what you're mentioning in that Armstrong lot and get rid of what is a vital parking lot and what is planned by Scott to be used for season ticket holders, quite frankly.
Well, I mean, it's always been like a death by 1,000 cuts, and now it's time to pay the piper with building something substantial. Now, whether the parking structure supports the arena attendees, or whether it's for staff and students to park in, so the surface lots are available for those events and they're easier to disperse from. So, that's
So
just my comment.
if I may, your question about both kind of short-term and master plan, I think it's a good one, in that one of the things that the city will be asking of us as a team is to, just looking from a short-term perspective, what I mean by that is the arena and this specific project. We've got to answer the question about parking. At the same time, when we amend the master plan and show the natatorium there, we have to be able to answer the question to the city as well, how are we addressing that longer-term parking? Realizing it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, but the city's going to ask that of us, and we're going to need to be able to respond to that. One is looking at this immediate project, and the other is then trying to project forward. But understand, master plans are fluid, and that can be frustrating.
And we've seen that fluidity because this was supposed to have underground parking. And there wasn't enough money, so they eliminated that underground parking. There was supposed to be underground parking by the new dorms with a playing field on top. So it's so convenient that they are in the master plans, but when it comes to the money, those things never happen. And that's what I'm afraid is going to happen with this arena. And this is the last significant piece of land for there to be a parking structure built on to solve a long-term problem.
Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. You have your comment forms, please fill those out. I've got your cards, I've been going through, checking to see if